Of 10 whites, 1 Hispanic, and 1 Asian American, no blacks, acquitted the policeman, all 4 of them, on all counts but 1. The jury was split 8-4 on that remaining count. President Bush, talking to reporters at a state dinner this evening, issued an appeal for calm and reason in the community. But there has already been quite a lot of violence in Los Angeles and a great deal of anger. We're going to take a look right now at a live helicopter shot of Los Angeles. Obviously, from this height, and since it is already after dark in Los Angeles, all you can see is that there is a fire going. But we can tell you there has been a fair amount of violence already in Los Angeles. Some rock throwing. There was at one point an assault on a police station, although nothing too violent seems to have occurred there, and eventually order was restored. But again, what you're looking at is a live helicopter shot of Los Angeles at night. Clearly someone has set a fire somewhere. I cannot even tell you what neighborhood that is in Los Angeles, but as the evening progresses, we will try and get more information for you and be a little more explicit in some of the details that we can provide. You can see some action going on down there, but from this distance, it's a little bit too difficult to tell you precisely what. Let us, however, begin by giving you an update on what's been happening since the trial and the verdict from James Walker in Los Angeles.
It did not take long tonight for reaction to the verdict to change from shock to anger to violence. At one intersection in Los Angeles' black community, cars were attacked by rock throwers. 2 people were pulled from one car. A woman was left lying in the street. A 3rd person in the car was also attacked. Police were nowhere in sight. Throughout the area, people were outraged.
Let them know what time it is.
Right.
Let them know.
It's right. Show them
No justice in America, not for the blacks. The justice is for the other man, not for the brother man.
It just shows me that Simi Valley is full of nothing but prejudiced white folk.
At Los Angeles Police Department headquarters, about 200 demonstrators gathered peacefully to protest the jury's decision.
We just want to come out and show our support for Rodney King, his family, that this just cannot happen in America today. I think it's just a disgrace.
But moments later, a small group of protesters started throwing objects at the building's front door. The city's official response came from Mayor Tom Bradley, who made it clear he does not agree with the jury's action.
No, our eyes did not deceive us. We saw what we saw, and what we saw was a crime. No, we will not tolerate the savage beatings of our citizens by a few renegade cops.
Reaction to the not guilty verdict had been immediate. Many people who had come to the courthouse outside Los Angeles were shocked.
Brothers in South Central LA, Crips and Bloods, stop fighting. Because we got a real fight going on right now.
It's just like a bomb. It's a bomb. We're sitting on a bomb. You know? I mean, this happens. They put a black man in jail for kicking a dog, but they let a Korean woman off for shooting a young black woman. What are they telling our kids?
But not everyone condemned the verdict. This woman yelled her support for the police officers.
I'm glad the LAPD are out there protecting me. Yes, I'm not.
Most of the trouble so far has centered on a 20-block area in south central Los Angeles. About an hour ago, firemen moved into one neighborhood protected by Los Angeles police officers to put out 2 fires. To bring you up to date, Ted, we have just gotten in the following reports. Martin Luther King Hospital says that they're so busy treating gunshot wounds and assaults they don't have a patient count. A second hospital reports that their patient load has doubled with assault cases. A short time ago, a police helicopter made a successful forced landing after the pilot thought he had been fired upon. To sum up, there has been lots of looting, some fires, but most of the violence has apparently been sporadic and apparently limited at this time to a 20-block area of the city. Ted?
James Walker, thanks very much. When we come back, I'll give you an account of a telephone conversation I had, a fairly lengthy conversation with one of the jurors, and give you some insight as to how the jury reached the verdict that they did. That and a story on the trial when we come back.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Charles Schwab.
Everyone has a dream, a vision deep inside.
With all the mutual funds out there, I needed an easy way to help me compare them.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
With Schwab's free mutual funds performance guide, I can compare track records on over 500 funds.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
Nothing carves the road like the new Prelude from Honda.
Attention furniture shoppers, Don's Wholesale Furniture is having a great special on living room groups. These sets are nicely tailored and have a lifetime frame warranty. This beautiful sofa and love seat combination is on special for only $5.99 for both pieces. This two-piece sofa and love seat set trimmed in oak is only $4.99 for both pieces. And this smartly styled three-piece sofa, love seat, and chair set are only $3.99 for all three pieces while they last. Hurry in today. Credit cards accepted and easy finance terms available. Don's Wholesale Furniture, 4401 Northeast 14th Street, Des Moines.
It's us and them.
Primetime undercover as meat packers. What we saw could make you sick.
That's feces.
An industry-wide investigation. Primetime Thursday.
This is one of those cases in which the first reaction is one of slack-jawed amazement. How could that jury, if they looked at the same videotape beating that we've all seen a dozen times or more on television, how could they look at that and then vote for acquittal? The jury has decided not to talk to the press, but earlier this evening I reached one of the jurors by phone, and on the condition that I give neither the gender nor the identity of that juror, we talked for about 20 minutes. Why did they vote as they did? In a nutshell, they were turned around by the total package of evidence, by the fact that Rodney King had been chased for more than 8 miles, that he totally refused to cooperate with the police. Time and again, the juror told me, King controlled the action. He could have stopped it. When he got out of the car, he could have put his hands in the air. He wouldn't have been touched. The jury looked at the tape over and over. They looked at it in slow motion. They looked at it frame by frame. They watched that tape more than 30 times. A lot of those blows, said the juror, when you saw them in slow motion, were not connecting. They looked at the evidence of the injuries done to King. Those batons are heavy, the juror told me, but when you looked at King's body 3 days after the incident, not that much damage was done. Rodney King's size and strength obviously weighed heavily with the jury. That and the perception that he seemed out of control, that he'd had a lot to drink, that he appeared to be on PCP. At one point, the juror said, King lunged at and connected with Officer Powell. The cops were simply doing what they'd been instructed to do. They were afraid he was going to run or even attack them. He had not been searched, so they didn't know if he had a weapon. He kept going for his pants, so they thought he might be reaching for a gun. That's all a direct quote from the juror. The defense obviously did an effective job with the jury in undermining the video. Unsteady, out of focus, zooming in and out, and it was shot from 170 feet away from a second story. The fact that King wasn't called as a witness seems to have had an effect. Had King been able to talk to us, the juror told me, the video might have been looked at differently. As for the suggestion that racism was involved in the police action, the juror pointed to the presence of 2 other blacks in King's car. They gave themselves up. They weren't beaten. Final words of our conversation, and this is a quote, I have no regrets about the verdict. I'll sleep well tonight. Los Angeles stood still earlier today, long enough to hear the verdict, as Judy Muller reports.
All around Los Angeles, people stopped to hear the long-awaited verdict.
Not guilty of the
And all around Los Angeles, people were wondering why. Why did the jury reach a verdict of not guilty? It was a question complicated by the jury's decision not to talk to reporters. They left the courthouse together on a bus. No one could be wondering more about that question than prosecutor Terry White.
Well, my reaction is shock first and then disappointment. Obviously, we feel the evidence warranted a conviction on the defendants, and the jury disagreed with us, and we must abide by their decision.
Throughout the 6-week trial, White asked the jurors to believe their own eyes, to believe that the 4 defendants beat Rodney King beyond the force necessary to subdue him. Over and over again, the jurors watched the videotape that shocked the nation. In fact, White never called King to the stand, relying instead on the power of that amateur tape to tell his story. But the defense asked the jurors not to believe their own eyes, arguing that the tape did not tell the whole story of what happened that night last March. Dissecting the tape frame by frame, defense attorneys attempted to show that the officers were frightened of King because he refused to obey their commands and because they believed he was on PCP. Sergeant Stacy Coon said King had Hulk-like strength and groaned like a bear. Officer Lawrence Powell, who administered most of the baton blows, said King was so aggressive he feared he would have to shoot him. The only officer to break ranks with the other defendants was Ted Brasino, who said he tried to stop what he believed was an excess use of force. At times, Brasino sounded like a witness for the prosecution. LAPD Commander Michael Bostic, who was a witness for the prosecution, testified that almost everything shown on the tape was outside the department's guidelines for use of force. In the end, the jury apparently bought the defense's argument.
Well, I don't know how important the videotape was to the jury. We felt the videotape was important in our case. We felt it showed excessive force by these defendants, but apparently the jury disagreed with us.
One of the things that I thought was very important in this case in the beginning was to try to put the jurors in the shoes of the police officers at the scene, all of them. And I think we were able to do that.
Even though the district attorney could file new assault charges against Powell on the one count declared a mistrial today, Powell was in a victorious mood.
Officer Powell, your reaction to what has happened today?
Very happy.
Officer Tim Wynn's attorney spoke for him.
It certainly does have the feelings of gratitude for the fact that he got a fair trial, got a fair shake, and the case wasn't dominated by the people who prejudged the incident almost 14 months ago.
But there are those who argue that moving the trial to Simi Valley, a predominantly white suburban community that is home to hundreds of police officers, produced a jury that might have been inclined to believe the white officers over a black suspect.
The message is the same consistently from slavery until now. When white America's justice system tries another white, when it comes to the life or the abuse of an African American, it's not worth anything. They're going to always set them free.
So far, Rodney King is maintaining his silence, but his lawyer is not.
I'm outraged at this result. I think that there's any right-thinking, normal person that sees that videotape and has experienced the